So that's great. We've learned to pour our juice, we're self-sufficient, and as you get a little bit older, one of my daughter's favorite things is to have tea parties, or when guests come to our house, to actually offer them tea or beverages. Now, of course, I know this is a creamer, but work with me here. Notice it's an opaque pitcher this time. That's important. These are opaque glasses. I'm less able to see where the liquid is. I'm having to judge it more using my hand. That's that proprioceptive input again. And that's something that can be kind of hard for Asperkids to control, not only the fine motor, but also to judge, okay, I can feel by the weight, it's about halfway gone. And if I pour about the same amount into this cup, indeed, I've got the same amount in both cups. Not from looking, but from feeling. And that's something really important. Why? Well, it translates into a million other skills. You want to know what one of them is? Handwriting. Trust me on this. It's true. I'm going to guess that most of us, whether as teachers or as parents of Asperkids, have seen our kids struggle with dysgraphia. That's the really, really intense difficulty with handwriting. Not all Asperkids have it. I have to say, I didn't. So that when I saw my eldest Asperkid struggling with it, I didn't understand what was so difficult. But I've seen now, as time has gone on, that she struggled with the amount of pressure. How tightly do I hold, whether it's a piece of chalk or whether it's a crayon or a pencil or whatever, how tightly do I hold it so that I don't break what I'm actually holding, that I don't break through my paper, or if I'm erasing, that I don't actually erase right through my paper? Well, you know how you learn that? By learning to judge the proprioceptive input in your hands, just like I did over here by pouring. Okay, so let's take it up a level then. What do? Here's one of my favorite handwriting activities. I'm pouring water, yes I am, there we go, into a little bowl. And my Asperkid is presented with the model. In this case, it's a cursive lowercase a. This is something I'm working on with my about-to-be 6-year-old son. And handwriting is extremely hard for him. Honestly, it isn't really about fine motor control for him. For him, it's visual processing. It's eye teaming and eye tracking. And this is something I hear from a lot of parents of Asperkids. How do we help our kids read or write when their eyes are jumping all over the place? Well, first of all, keyboarding, but beyond that, this is one of the ways. And I'm going to show you. I've given my Asperkid his model, his already pre-written letter. And the reason for that, again, is that he is not trying to figure out where in space his writing needs to go. That would just be too hard. There is a designated area made by this wood. But if you don't happen to have a nice little slate, a la Little House on the Prairie, that's okay. Actually, a fantastic way to do this is to get a beautiful, dark, smooth river stone. You can do the same thing that I'm about to show you on a stone outside in your backyard. Okay, we have a lovely Model A. Super. Now, I'm going to use the water that I just poured from my little opaque pitcher into my little opaque container. And I'm going to take a small little brush. Here, I'm practicing, first of all, again, there's my sensory. How much water do I have on here? Do I have way too much? I need to judge that. Okay, but what I'm doing is practicing my pincer grip. And I'm going to paint right over my A. So I'm practicing handwriting, but boy, it's a lot more fun because I'm painting with water. See? And I know I did it by the materials telling me. If I see, oh, I completely missed that section, then I probably need to go back and do it again and go a little bit lower this time. And there we go. There it is. But I can still practice my stroke. And then, if I want to afterwards, I can take a dry sponge and dry and practice the same thing. What did it all start with? Pouring water. I know. You do your thing, really. And beyond that, pouring skills can go so far. Let's see if Mom has the balance that I'm trying to give the kids. The grace and courtesy. Yes. No spilling. Okay. Well, where else? Let's see. Practical life skills extend everywhere. And again, it's about self-reliance. Can you pour the vegetable oil into the mixing container without spilling it all over the countertop? Lord knows this is going to make a much bigger mess than those beans that you can vacuum up, right? Yeah, I know I love to cook with my kids. It's one of the best ways I can get them to actually eat something, especially if we're doing something that involves using ingredients from our own garden. But again, practical life skills, pouring, am I going to make a mess? Personally, I have had many ingredients end up all over the countertop when my kids are trying to pour, but they're not really looking where they're going. And suddenly we're on the side, or we're just over the side, and things have gone disastrously wrong. But it's okay, they're trying. And that's why we always reward the effort, not the product. Let the product speak for itself. If a kid sees that he or she has spilled, guess what? He knows he spilled. She knows she made a mess. They don't need you to tell them. So it's okay, and that's one of the most important things about using materials that have what we call control of error. That is, they speak to you and tell you whether or not you've done something right or whether there needs to be an adjustment. Okay, so where else can this whole pouring thing go? Well, lots of places. Like I just mentioned, the garden. This is a root view grower. We happen to be learning about plants at our house because Asperkids love facts. They need context the more that you can teach them, like why the heck I'm learning pouring, the more likely they are to want to participate. So what this is going to be, and even though they've done some dissecting of whole plants, you can't really get to see what the root function is unless you can actually see them growing. So we're going to be planting radishes and onions. We're going to be planting some carrots just in here so they can watch the roots. But you know what they had to do to the peat first? They had to pour water into the peat to soak it, to make it a good environment for the seeds. Then let's take that plant thing a little further. Flower arranging. It's one of the nicest ways for an Asperkid to contribute to the environment in which he or she is living. And it's probably one of those things, honestly, that nowadays we don't pay as much attention to, or at least a lot of kids don't spend the time, because it does take time. But there's always what we call the flower arranging tray ready for our kids. It's got safety scissors, gardening gloves, a glass receptacle, and a kid-sized watering can. That's important, again, kid size. And what do? They'll go out in the garden, they can snip anything they want. Hydrangeas, roses, foxgloves, or wildflowers like you see here, and that's fine. They're making their own space, and every one of my Asperkids has on their bedside table their own little arrangement of flowers. It's also what we have as a centerpiece. They're part of the unit. They don't feel that they need to be different or other, which is, trust me, way too big a feeling. At home, you need to feel part of the team. And once they've got, and again, this is sequencing, a sequencing skill. They have to go out and cut them. And you don't put the flowers in before the water, because why? You're going to have water dripping through. You have to make sure that you're pouring the water using those same holding skills, helping hand, holding this, not holding the flowers at the same time, showing, pouring to the level that you want, feeling it, judging it. And then one by one, placing the blossoms that they want into the jar. So not only have they contributed to care of the environment around themselves, and contributed socially to the larger group, they've used those practical skills to feel that what they do and what they think matters. And that's really, really important to anybody, isn't it? Let's take the creative trip and keep moving that way. This is actually one of my favorites. Do we love it? Do we love it? Yeah. This is my version of Louis Armstrong's What a Wonderful World. It's my wedding song, so it's going to have blue for my husband and pink for me, and when we combine, we get purple. Cute, right now. Anyway, what this really is I put on some music. Do this for your Asperkid. Let them be okay with whatever happens, happens. That's really scary. That's not planned. There's no logic there. There's no beginning. There's no end. Huh? Exactly. You're challenging cognitive flexibility. Take a crayon. As soon as the music goes on, that crayon is on the page. And as long as you are playing the music, that Asperkid is not allowed to lift his or her crayon. They're going to ask you, well, what am I supposed to be making? There is no supposed to be. What? Well, is it supposed to, did I do it right? What do you think? Not yes or no, not there's no right, there's no wrong. What do you think? That's their opinion. And then I'm going to take my water again, my decanter, and use pretty containers if you can. This was my great-grandmother's oil and vinegar container decanter. And pour Notice if I kept pouring and I pulled it out too far, the materials themselves would tell me I was doing something wrong. I've got my water that I poured for myself, that I carried carefully for myself on my own heavy china tray, thumbs on top, fingers underneath, watching where I'm going. That's gross motor planning. That's big stuff. It's not easy to do. And then I take a little bit of paint, and I'm judging how much water here. Now, this is the trickiest part. Visual processing again. Can I find, or this specific part, it's called visual closure. Do I have the dexterity, the fine motor control, and of course I'd be doing this on a table, but to paint in just one, shall we say, window that was made by any of the crossed crayon lines. It's almost like making stained glass, bit by bit by bit. But that is really, really tough. This is something for, an older or at least very coordinated child. And if your older child isn't so coordinated, that's okay. That's why you do it step by step by step by step. That was really hard to do, and believe it or not, that skill is going to help him or her, again, with handwriting, with reading, with math skills, all of them, just by coloring in a little window on paper of crayon, because they're looking to be able to identify a small space and just respond to that space. And what was part of that? Pouring water.